In the early days of World of Warcraft, there was a piece of software that did so much damage to the in-game economy that Blizzard actually sued the creators of this software for $6 million. That is how extreme this situation was. I am of course talking about the software named Glider. Glider is definitely the most influential piece of software that ever got released into World of Warcraft. And the effects of this piece of software can still be felt today, as massive changes Blizzard made to the game World of Warcraft were influenced by this piece of software. Things like the WoW token and gold inflation with each expansion was introduced partly because of Glider. So you may be asking, what the heck is Glider? Glider is essentially the first ever bot released in World of Warcraft. At least this was the first ever bot that had commercial success. There were other bots before that, but they were extremely primitive and were never at the level of Glider. The price of gold before Glider was $10 per gold, and after Glider it was $1 per gold. That should give you an idea of how much gold this piece of software created and put into the game. Part of the reason why this was so much of a success was that the actual bot itself was pretty sophisticated at the time, and Blizzard had no idea of finding out who was using this bot from their own systems. In fact, the only way a player could be caught and banned for using this bot was by another player reporting them for suspicious behavior. The bot itself was coded using a waypoint system. The way it worked is that you would basically run around in your character, you would basically create waypoints, and these waypoints would basically be revisited when you play the bots back, and you would basically go from waypoint to waypoint on the map. You would attack any mob in your way. Doing this let a player walk around a designated area and let them farm enemies when they were AFK. So you could be gone for 6 hours and you can come back and your character would have a bunch of experience and a bunch of items dropped from the 6 hours of continuous grinding that didn't need you to be in your computer chair. Needless to say, this was pretty powerful, as gold farming before this was all done via humans, and that is why gold was $10 per 1 gold in the early days. After this, a bunch of gold got flooded into the market, and the price of gold really took a nosedive after this got released and dropped down to $1 per gold in a matter of days, no less. The biggest flaw with this bot is that it is very easy to spot if you know what you're looking for when a player is using this bot. You see, the way Glider worked, it basically couldn't replicate a human movement in World of Warcraft, and the way it moved around from waypoint to waypoint was by using the arrow keys instead of using the mouse to control the camera like a normal human would. You see, a regular World of Warcraft player will play the game using a combination of their mouse keys as well as their keyboard keys to move and rotate the camera. This is something that is almost impossible for a bot to replicate. Seeing someone use Glider, you would notice that they were a bot by them turning solely using their keyboard keys and never using movement that a mouse would create. A Glider bot would never use the mouse to control the camera or character, and this would look a little something like this. As you can see, I am not using any of my mouse keys to control my camera or character, and it is pretty different to how a human would move in World of Warcraft. So if a player saw this kind of movement in the open world for some guy that was just grinding mobs, he could easily open a ticket to Blizzard and report the player. And if Blizzard sees this, they will know what this is and they will ban that character. As time went on, Glider got developed further and further, and many new things were introduced, like random jumping, things like logging out after being ganked too many times, and so on. Glider was continuously updated and got introduced patches that basically made the movement slightly more human and believable, but if a player knew what he was looking for, he could easily spot you using a bot. Blizzard, of course, were not happy about this. During the time of the Burning Crusade, Blizzard sued Glider for $6 million in damages to the game. This legal battle lasted for a long time, however Glider lost and they had to pay Blizzard $6 million in damages. However, during this time, Glider received the highest amount of sales of all time, as many news articles and things were posted about this legal battle between Blizzard and Glider. The side effect was that more people than ever were buying Glider and using it for themselves. The majority of the people using Glider were basically just doing it to farm gold and sell it for real money to one of these big websites that would accept gold for cash and would later sell on to retail players in World of Warcraft. However, glider could be used for many things, including fishing, farming herbs, as well as just simply leveling up a character. Needless to say, glider has its place in World of Warcraft's history, however, not for good reasons. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more interesting World of Warcraft videos. This is vaulty, signing out.